Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order. It's now 9 o'clock. The proceedings of this meeting will be recorded and made available on the internet. And I would like to move on to item 1.2 of our agenda, which is roll call. And I'll ask our clerk, Jessie Clark, to please call the roll.
Thank you. Mayor Lamstead, are you present?
I am present.
Deputy Mayor Armstrong? Present. Councillor Franzen?
Present.
Councillor Braybrook?
Present.
Councillor Cadigan?
Present.
For staff, we have Donna Taggart, CIO Treasurer.
Present.
Steve Brockbank, Director of Emergency Services.
Present.
Dylan Kosh, Director of Recreation and Facilities.
Present.
Evan Grieger, Director of Public Works.
Present.
Barb Waldron, Director of Building and Planning, CBO.
Present.
And Jessie Clark, Director of Corporate Services. Clerk is present, and so is Bianca Dragicevic, Deputy Clerk.
Thank you very much, Clark. Okay, I can move on to item 1.3 of our agenda, which is land acknowledgement and moment of reflection. We respectfully acknowledge that Trent Lakes and Peterborough County are located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaty First Nation, which include Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Rama, Beausoleil, and Georgina Island First Nation. Trent Lake respectfully acknowledges that the Williams Treaty First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. We will now take a moment to reflect on these principles and our duties and responsibilities as members of council. Thank you. Okay, we can move on to item 2 of the agenda, which is disclosure of pecuniary interest. If any member of council has a pecuniary interest on an item on the agenda, please disclose it now or anytime during the meeting prior to discussing anything on the item you have a pecuniary interest in. I'm seeing no hands. We move on to item 3 of our agenda, which is the approval of the agenda as circulated. I would entertain a motion for same. I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a mover and Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Any conversation about the agenda? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion is carried. We can now move on to item 4 of our agenda, which is delegations, and item 4.1 is the delegations by grant applicants. Okay. We can move right along now, and we have in our gallery, we have Janet Clarkson for the Buckhorn Lions Club. Will you please move to the podium and give us your delegation, please?
Thank you very much. And I have with me our treasurer, who is a lot more able to explain the money end of it than what I am. I'm here to explain the benefits that I think the Santa Claus Parade has to the municipality. I think we offer a big boost to tourism and locals at a time of the year when everything is kind of on a sort of a downhill slope. We desperately need some help with some funding. As of this year, we were hit with a $900 and some bill from the OPP, which we did not expect. Lions Club, as you may or may not know, we're an organization that pretty much everything that we make goes back into the community. People give us roughly $100 in terms of membership. And of that membership, only $8 of that stays in the community. The rest of it goes to Lions International. So the money that we have to distribute, which you have in your package, is money that we raise. But along with that, Lions encourage each group to do a certain amount of activities in the community that are non-fundraising. Santa Claus Parade is one of them. So even though people say to us, you know, what's the entrance fee to come into your parade? We have no entrance fee. So, you know, people give donations if they feel that they do, but usually it's young families that are participating. The participation is made up of pretty much every single business in the area, with the exception that I know of being 2, plus a lot of local individuals. We never ask them what they're going to do. We leave it up to them to decide what they want to do. I'm here also to thank you very, very much for the participation of council and staff, because without that participation, we couldn't possibly do it. Some municipalities, the Santa Claus parades are actually run by the municipality. In our case, we do it through the Lions. So any help that you can give us is money that pays for, and again, another bill that we have, it used to be that Tim Hortons would provide money for this type of activity. Now they select one a year. So when we do this type of thing, we provide the donuts and coffee and whatever. Those are paid for by the Lions Club. We added this year pictures with Santa, and Shriek from Foodland supplied hot dogs and whatever for everybody, and that included the adults. So hopefully you see yourself being able to help us once again. I say we have some council people here who can speak to our and finances. If you have questions on finances, I know you have a document in front of you that I, needless to say, did not get out in time. But our major expenses come down to signage, insurance, just like everybody else does. But if you have questions, by all means, ask Sally. She's better at this than I am.
Okay. Thank you very much, Janet. Does anyone have any questions with Janet or Sally? I'm seeing none. Your presentation. Oh, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Linton. Thanks very much, Janet. Just seeing the financials now, but you had a deficit in the last year. So how will you cover that? Do you already have a balance in your bank account that can help you overcome that deficit? And what will you do in the future? Oh, sorry. I see that she's deferring to you. And what will you do in the future to avoid that?
Unfortunately, sort of code of guidance, because I did just present the 12 months ending June, which is our the Lions financial year. Okay. The deficit represents the activity for that 12 months, but there was some cash in the bank, and some $3,000 prior to cover it. Okay. As of today, we have been able to cover our expenses with donations and grants and what has been given to us.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, and Councillor Graber, you had a question.
I told you she was better than I am.
Through you, Mayor, it's a comment. I attended the Santa Claus parade, and it was probably one of the best days of the year. And there was over, I believe, 1,500 people that lined the roadways and the sidewalks. And it's the biggest turnout that I've seen since you started a few years ago. So it was fantastic, and I had a lot of feedback from the community. They too noticed that it was the biggest. So thank you for everything you do with the Lions and us, that type of thing. And I know it doesn't go unnoticed, so we really appreciate it. So thank you.
Well, give yourselves a pat on the back too, because it's a labor of love by a lot of people. And you know, I think it's a type of thing that the community has been looking forward for a long time. But to build on that, like the fishing derby, which again is supported by this township, Easter egg hunt, you guys all support that. So there's many different activities during the year that the Lions are involved in. But this is a particular one that we need financial help with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? I just have one for you, Jen. I mean, if it wasn't for the passion of yourself and many individuals, this wouldn't happen. So I think this is a very huge undertaking to be done by a small group like the Lions Club, and we certainly do appreciate your activities in the municipality, Trent. Thank you very much to your whole group.
Thank you.
I'll pass it on.
Okay. Anyone, any other questions? I'm seeing none. We can move on. Who's Christine Brickman? Is she on the line? Christine Brickman is here to represent the Kinmount Agricultural Society.
I'm not seeing her online. We can just move on to
Okay.
the next as she comes.
Okay, maybe she will come on later. Now we can move on to our third delegation, and that is Ed Leardom from the Kawartha Land Lake Stewards Association. Ed, would you please come up to the podium and give us your presentation?
Thank you. Morning, Mr. Mayor, deputy, councilors, staff. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my delegation, all those that are coming today at you and your patience during that time. I'm not going to get into what we do because you know us very well and support us year to year to year. And I think we're well known in the community. But I just wanted to point out a few things about our financials today that you might have questions about. So to start with, well, let me just start with saying that, year to year, we do kind of the same things. We make sure that we have robust testing of our lakes in the area. We test for E. coli and phosphorus and many other things. We have projects underway, naturalizing shorelines, and many other things. One of the big things that we did last year was do a reprint of our ever popular new aquatic plants guide. So we take on, special projects whenever we can afford to, and whenever there's a thought to do that. So on that note, we did do that reprint of 1,000 copies of our aquatic plants guide, which is available to the public and anyone free of charge. It is being used in classrooms and labs at colleges, universities, and even by the mayor's grandchildren and nephews and nieces, I think, and others. So the cost was just under $7,000, and we were able to cover that with the revenue and your assistance with your grant from last year. You'll notice that what looks like quite a robust revenue last year and a bank balance, and that is primarily because we were very fortunate to get a grant from the Environment and Climate Change Canada. The project was officially entitled the Kawartha Lakes Landowner Engagement and Shoreline Habitat Restoration Project. And what that really translates into, again, renaturalizing shorelines, private property, and a Love Your Lake program that we did on Clear Lake this year. We did receive over $54,000 from this by this grant in 2024. It's a 2-year term. It actually started in August of 2023 and it ends in March this year. In addition, we obtained a $5,000 related grant. I want to emphasize that, from the Canadian Wildlife Federation. 3,000 received last year. We expect 2,000 this year at the completion of our project. So we do have very vast and different sources of revenue and donations and grants, as well as from municipalities. You'll notice that we have not spent the entire ECC grant this year. Again, it stretches into the end of March. There's $20,700 left to work with from that grant, and user fees that we charge landowners, small fee to participate. So that big balance that you see at the end is really mostly targeted for that specific project. And if we don't use all of that grant, I think you know how that works. We have to give it back, the unused portion, right? And we might have to do some of that. So at the end of our forecasted year, this year, the bank balance will be $24,000. It does include our reserves that we have carried for a few years of $20,000. So really, we look at it as the net of just over $4,000, which is where we feel comfortable going into the new year. A lot of our big expenses come in the first quarter of the year. Our annual report that you all get a copy of, our insurance, and those are the two big ones. The grant is a request from Municipality of Trent Lakes is for a liability insurance this year, which is $2,000. Our policy carries additional insurance for all our volunteers, insurance for any cyber attacks, which we're never going to get away from, I think, and insurance for our in-water activities, an extra cost for being in the water and doing our things. I do have a couple of comments on the process that you have in place, but before, I wondered if there were any questions on our financials that you wanted to ask me at this point.
Thank you very much, Ed. Does anyone have any questions of Ed? Seeing none, do you have another? Oh, go ahead, Councilor Braber.
Sorry, through you, Mayor. I always wait till the last.
I know, just as I look away, you put your hand up.
That's right. Yeah.
Don't be shy.
Thanks very much, Ed, for that. So with that, the grant you got for project, it was 61,000.
Yes.
You had mentioned different projects within that you're spending the money on that. Do you have a list of that? And-
It's really the two that are noted there. It's the Natural Edge, what we started with a few years ago, can continue on, and the Love Your Lake program. Those are the only two things that money is for.
Right.
So we hired a few interns based on this grant this past summer to go out and do the Love Your Lake, look at all the properties in Shoreline and Clear Lake and do some mapping and some data gathering and putting in a spreadsheet, all that kind of stuff.
Right. And are you going to sort of take it on the road, like a little road show highlighting the Natural Edge program in your next, I guess, your presentations?
Yes, as you all know, we have a few public meetings in the year, spring and the fall, and we highlighted this in our last one as a big one, and we will of course continue to do that. And we will, as long as we have funds, whether it's from this grant or other funds, we will continue to do the Natural Edge program. I'm not sure about the Love Your Lake. That's kind of a big undertaking. So we would need a sizable amount of money for that again.
Well, we thank you for what you do. So it's important. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. Any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Franzen.
I just have one comment. I try to attend the spring and the fall shows, and I always learn something. I find them so informative, and I thank your group for that.
Thank you, Councillor. Appreciate that.
Any other comments? Any other questions? And you had something else to say?
If I may,
Sure.
I had a few observations and feedback about your process that you got in place for the grants. And I heard Ms. Clarkson talk about scrambling to get the financials together in time for the grant submission. So it is a challenge being this early in the year. Our fiscal year end is December 31st. And we do our financial statements for the preceding year, obviously after January 1st. So it's a bit of a hurry to submit the grant request by the second Friday in January. And I was wondering if you might have a look at that timing. I don't know what the rationale is for having it end mid-January. Maybe there's
I think it's budgetary pressures, like we need to get our budget solved and figured out.
Okay, all right.
That's the
I
reason.
figure there's some reason, but realize the pressures on people submitting for grants to get that, unless you want 2023 kind of thing, which is, yeah. Anyway, just to comment on that. The grant submission form does not provide the submitter the ability to download or print a copy. And I've mentioned that, I think, to the clerks. Which would be very useful to have in coming to present to you today and to reuse, honestly. So if that could be looked at. And also the, I think it was new for last year, requirement to submit a project completion report. I totally missed that. And Monday or Tuesday, Rachel sent out an email, please do this before Thursday. So if that could be highlighted or maybe even in the grant submission package to say a requirement is that once the project is complete, you fill this report. It's easy to do. It's not a big deal, but it's a requirement that I think was overlooked by maybe not just me. So just that. And my last point is in years prior to 2024, the community grants were decided and awarded at this meeting and after hearing presentations. Last year, you revised the process and council had already gone through the granting exercise and the grants were already decided before coming into this meeting and before hearing presentations and asking questions. So presentations were, I'm going to say, irrelevant on the basis of convincing you or giving you information to make your decision, help you with your decision. So I'm unclear as to whether or not council has already gone through the granting exercise coming into today's meeting, but if so, again, thank you for your time and your questions, but really if you've made your mind up already and you've gone through your process, then it's really kind of moot. And I would ask that an opportunity be given to you in the coming periods in the years ahead to be able to present to you before you go through that exercise.
And I think that's exactly what we're doing this year. We are not making decisions today. We are going to fill out our grant matrix, and then we're get it back to our staff, and then we will be presented with that, and we will be making decisions at our next meeting.
Perfect.
But thank you for the input. That's greatly appreciated.
I'm going to go pay my dog license.
Good for you. Okay, does anyone else have any more questions of Ed before he gets running away?
Almost.
I'm seeing none. I have a comment. It's nice to see that you are exploring many different revenue streams. That's very important for me to see, and I think that's great, and you do a great job at looking after some of the waters in our Trent Lakes. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we can move on to our next delegation, which is Pam Dickey from San Jose. Please come to the podium and probably should introduce yourself just for our staff.
I'm Pam Dickey, and I apologize for being late. My car decided to go into the snowbank at the end of the road. And thanks to the fire department, they got me out, and I got here at 1 minute after 9. And I said, go stand the other side of the road. Carol drove past me. You saw me, Ed saw me, and was like, oh, crap.
Well, it's nice to see you're here and safe.
And I'm safe.
Thank you to the fire department.
Yes, bless they had their exercise for today. Thank goodness it wasn't -20 tomorrow, yesterday. I'm here again to represent my little group of volunteers that every year bring Christmas to, we had 21 seniors this year. Every one of my volunteers that do the delivery spend at least an hour with the individuals, and some of them are keeping in contact with them currently, which I think is really great. It's just a fun thing for us to do. We averaged, with the assistance from the Lions Club, we were able to give them roughly $142 worth of food this year. And that included frozen Meals on Wheels and fresh food from Foodland. And I'm so lucky and blessed that I have friends that go out there and say, oh, Pam, can we donate? Can we help? What can we do? And I've already got 4 names for the coming year, for December. So it looks like we're going to be up over, I'm thinking 30, because I've also had another volunteer come on board and has said, I want to help, and I know people that need the help. So obviously we're filling a void that needs to happen in all of Trent Lakes. And I've told everybody that anybody that contacts me, if you know someone that needs help, but he or she is very nervous about it, then it's between the person that gives me the name and myself, and that individual that gives the person's name will do the delivery. So we keep it very, very private. And I must admit, Ellen Dumas is the other one that does know. She's my assistant. She's made me the head elf of this whole system. And before I did my submission, I hadn't gotten the thank you into the Lakefield Herald, so I brought a copy if everybody wants to see it. These are my crazy gals, crazy people that they all come in costume, every single one of them. And I have some that go actually and sing Christmas carols to them. So it's just something we found a niche. This is our 4th year doing it, and we found a niche in the township, which is surprising. So, any questions or?
Thank you very much, Pam. Any comments or questions from any members of council?
John's got his hand.
Go ahead, Councilor Braber.
Thanks to you, Mayor. Thanks very much for what you do, Pam, year in, year out. I know that you and I have spoken on many occasions about this, and you did sort of differentiate between what you do, what your program does, and the food bank.
Mhm.
Because I'm sure some people think, well, the food bank also does that, but yours is fairly unique. Could you maybe expand on that?
Yeah, the people that we're dealing with are very private individuals, and they are not comfortable using the food bank. And it's sad because I know, again, this year we had a couple that didn't have any food in their fridge by the time we got to them. And I actually, one individual phoned community care to find out if they could get into the program or if they'd heard about the program. And I think it's just, seniors are so proud. They will not ask for help. And we've tried, I've talked to Kelly about this and she said, Pam, we can't, we've tried. And because of they just want to keep it in their own, they'd rather feed their pets then take care of themselves. And we make sure the pets are taken care of too. When we know, we make sure that there was litter delivered this year, there was flats of cat food and bags of dog food. So when we find out, and we had a bird this year, and we took care of the bird too. So I think that's what the difference is, John. It's pride, and that's sad, but we're dealing with 85-year-old, 90-year-olds. There's a couple of 75, 76. These people live in beautiful houses, but they have no money coming in. Like their pension money is like probably around $2,000, I would think, if they're on OAS and CPP. And by the time they pay the taxes and their heating bills and, you know, they don't have anything. So we try to fill the niche as best we can. I'd love to get them involved in the food bank, but I don't think they'll do it. I really don't.
Thank you very much for your comments and question. Go ahead, Councilor Ray.
Thank you. Just one more regarding your financials. I didn't see no, it's completely possible I missed it. So my accounting as deputy mayor notices.
What are you looking for,
I always
John?
go to her for the details and the minutia of everything. Is there a closing balance on that?
Yeah, $125.41.
Okay, that's okay. I just didn't see that.
However, I've already had a donation,
Okay.
a knock at the door about 2 weeks ago, and I have money's already, I've had a $100 donation come in from a neighbor. Speaking of neighbor, I had a neighbor, because we had trouble finding a freezer this year. He put in his old clunky freezer, and he's told me it cost him $15 in hydro to keep our frozen food for a week. So it's connections, but it all starts with you guys helping us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else have any comments or questions? I just have a comment. I think you found a niche that's very important in this community, because some people will not reach out otherwise. So, thank you.
Thank you. And I agree with Ed's comments too about, I didn't know I had to put in a summary until I got an email and I went, oh crap.
Moving forward, we'll hopefully we can make sure that's included in our.
Thank you. And I couldn't download my thing like I did the last year either.
No. Well, thank you. We have those comments and we'll make sure we try to rectify that. Okay, we can move on now to Gary DeRose and Karen Shearer from CCRAI and Cattle. Karen or Gary, are you around?
We are here.
Excellent. Thank you very much. You can go ahead and do your delegation.
Okay, thank you very much, staff and council, for the opportunity to provide this application for the community grant. And this community grant is from the Cavendish Community Ratepayers Association and the Citizen for Alternative Transportation. If we could just go on to the next slide. I think most of you, both staff and council, are very familiar with the Cavendish Community Ratepayers Association, obviously a member-funded, community-based organization. And what we do is find solutions and make recommendations to any matter that affects the quality of living for ratepayers in the community. And we don't differentiate between anywhere from a geographic standpoint. We look at all Trent Lakes. So you may recall over the last decade, some of our major initiatives would be the Love Your Lake program, where we had 1,200 lakefront properties assessed for their level of naturalization. I think we also played a big role in the acceleration of clear bags for the waste sites, which has led us to being the leader in diversion rate in the Peterborough County, and we continue to be there. And we've also been involved in a lot of other projects like short-term rentals and the roadworks depots. Next slide, please. Last year, we had Karen Shearer from the Citizens for Alternative Transportation Trent Lakes do a presentation to our members at one of our public meetings. And our members were clear in stating that they wanted the opportunity to be able to walk in the community on the roads in a safe manner and ride their bicycles on municipal roads without having to worry about safety. And we know there are issues relative to safety for walking and bicycles, and we've heard that very loud and clear from our members. And you know, people are riding on those roads for a variety of reasons, as you can see, and some of it is just for health and well-being. But the key thing is safety issues are a concern for our members. And so what we wanted to do is say, what can we do to improve the safety in all of these kinds of activities that our members partake in? Next slide, please. And so we wanted to get into a partnership with the Citizens for Alternative Transportation in Trent Lake. So I'm going to turn it over to Karen Shearer to talk about what her organization does.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, Karen.
Thanks, Gary. Thank you, Mayor Lambshead and Council. So we are Citizens for Alternative Transportation in Trent Lakes, and what we do is make collaborative efforts to improve any type of alternative transportation in Trent Lakes. And so when this issue came up with the Cavendish Community Ratepayers Association, where they were looking for safer means of, or safety issues around alternative transportation on the minor roads. Our group has attended these design meetings called charrettes in the past, put on by the Peterborough Bicycle Advisory, Peterborough Green Up. They usually hold them, and what they are is bringing the community together to brainstorm what they want in their community in terms of roads and how they would like to use their roads. So the questions that are addressed in a charrette is, what do you like about the roads and want to keep? What would you like to change or improve? And what type of community road use they wish for the future? So we have attended these types of workshops. We've reached out to experts in our network who can contribute to that process. And we're willing to partner with the Cavendish Ratepayers Association to hold a charrette to focus on practical solutions and develop a local consensus on road sharing. And through that, our goal is to develop a plan that could improve road sharing in these communities in terms of all of the types of transportation that we use for our roads. We have people who've been involved in these types of planning projects in the Ottawa area who are willing to come and help us as well area. And we also have been put in touch with a local physician who is on the Vision Zero committee, which looks at road safety. So we've already began a process to help the citizens in this area look at things that they could do to improve that funding. But it would be good to have small things for the meeting, like workshop supplies and refreshments. And so I think that Gary will take you through the proposed budget in the next coming slides. Over to, I'll turn it over back to Gary then, unless
Thanks,
there's
Karen.
specific questions.
Okay, go ahead, Gary.
Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. So this is great. So, I mean, we looked at obviously the Trent Lakes grant funding criteria. We think we get check marks on 100% of all of the criteria. If we could go to the next slide, please. This is our estimated expenses for the road charrette. We are planning on advertising this to our members through our newsletter and our email communications, and also at our June public meeting, which has already been scheduled for June 21st. And then we would hold the charrette after that meeting. So obviously the Cavendish Community Center, we can get it $0. We have some money for promotion and posters, refreshments, and workshop supplies. Total budget request of $915. We could just go to the next slide, please. So how does this meet the funding criteria? You know, we spent some time looking at the Trent Lake Strategic Plan, which I know you're all familiar with because you're the authors of it. And we particularly looked at page 21 on the score evaluation. And we looked at what does the community aspire to be. And these are all the key points within the aspire that we are looking for. You know, how do we value and protect the natural beauty? Well, as people walk, that's how, or ride bikes or go on trails, that's how they appreciate the beauty of our environment. Having integrated biking and hiking and walking trails, clearly the charrette looks at how people can navigate from each of those venues to another. A friendly, engaged community. You know, the charrette does bring the community together. That's just one of the purposes of it. Um, I won't go through everything in there, but I think it's fairly clear that we are consistent with the strategic plan. If we could just go on to the next slide, please. How it contributes to youth, seniors, and benefits a significant number of residents and citizens. We've had citizens talk to us. We're hearing their concerns. We're trying to figure out how we can reduce dependence on driving and give people alternative ways to move around in a safe manner. And the charrette really could be applied in any community in Trent Lakes. Next slide, please. Obviously, a charrette is a collaboration of people, so this does demonstrate collaboration and positive community impact. And clearly, the end result, if we can achieve it, is it's a healthier, safe, and active community. So it's good from that perspective. But the key thing is it's consensus developed by the community. So this is not something that's being driven downwards. This is being driven upwards from the community. So it's all based on consensus. Next slide, please. Fiscal and overall accountability. You know, I think you have a lot of history with the Cavendish Community Ratepayers Association. We're a very well managed organization and have always managed our finances very fiscally and been very attentive to all of that. Next slide, please. And in terms of responding to existing community gaps or needs in the community, obviously, these needs were identified at our annual meeting in August of last year. But the road charrette will not only help provide solutions, but it will also educate the community, which we think is valuable because there is a role not only by people in vehicles, but by people walking and riding bikes in terms of what they can do to enhance safety on those roads. And what we want to do is we don't want to have cyclists against people in cars and people in cars against people walking on the road. We want to bring the community together and get consensus on how we overall as a group and as a community improve the safety of our citizens on our municipal roads. Next slide. So thank you for the opportunity, and Karen and I'd be more than happy to take any of your questions, comments, or suggestions.
Okay, thank you very much, Gary and Karen. Does anyone on council have any questions? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor Lamson. Thanks very much, Gary and Karen, and thanks for bringing this forward. Certainly, safe roads and shared roads are an important issue and a priority for Trent Lakes. I think you answered one of my questions, which was when would charrette be held? Because I know, for example, my neighbor who only comes up in the summer brings up his bike and goes over to Beaver Lake Road to ride it every day. So I'm assuming it will still be during the cottager season that the charrette will be held?
Yes, that is correct. You know, the Cavendish Community Ratepayers Association have always been big advocates to staff and council that whenever we do these things, we should try and do when we have the highest population here for anything related to the municipality. So yes, it will be done during the summer.
Thank you. And the second question, the results and recommendations coming out of this will probably involve or engage our Public Works Department in terms of their support and assistance in making the road more accessible. So I'm just wondering how you envision the engagement of Public Works throughout this process.
Yeah, I was going to say, Karen, could you maybe from your expertise answer that?
Yeah, sure. So I agree with you, Carol. I imagine that it would at some point in the future. I think it depends a little bit what comes out of that charrette, but yeah, I totally think that it would involve a plan that would involve a future delegation to council with what we found in that report. I did invite Evan Grieger to the event, but he said that it was kind of too early in the process for his involvement. So So I think the plan would be to generate a report and then another delegate about what we think would be helpful in those regards.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Armstrong?
No, not really. I'm just wondering if there might be more engagement, Public Works, even to be at the thing as an observer. Because I just don't want it ending up being an us, them kind of situation when you come forward with recommendations without, our Public Works Department having been somewhat involved or more familiar with the community concerns.
Well, I mean, they're certainly invited to come. They're invited to come to participate or as an observer. I've already reached out to them, so I guess I would say that the ball is in their court.
Yep, fair enough.
May-
Nope, that.
Maybe on that point through you, Mayor Lamb said, could we leave that as a discussion point between staff and council, maybe to make a determination when you have your discussions on these projects, whether you think it's appropriate for Public Works, Roadworks to be involved a little bit earlier or not?
Okay, thank you very much. And I think we have a question from Councillor Braber. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks through your Mayor. Thanks, Gary and Karen, appreciate it. Just a comment and a question. My comment doesn't have to do with the actual grant application. It has to do with when I was reviewing the expenses, I noticed the abandoned docks initiative, and I just wanted to thank you, Gary, and your association for taking that initiative on. And I think a lot of the people don't realize how much of a safety hazard in the spring the lakes are. I know I've taken out one of my boats with a floating piece of dock or otherwise. So we really appreciate you taking that initiative on, and it would be nice to see if more cottage associations would do the same. So that's my comment regarding that. And my question regarding your grant ask. I know, Gary, you mentioned that you were asking for $915, and I think in the grant application, it's $992. So I didn't want you to short yourself $77. So I suppose, I presume that it's the $992 that the ask is?
That is correct. I'm looking at the budget that I forwarded in, and it is $992.
All right, perfect. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.
And just through the chair, Councilor Braybrook and the rest of council on the abandoned dock, you will be hearing more about that. We are in front of the Environmental Advisory Committee in February, and we're hoping to come forward to council with an update later on after that Environmental Advisory Committee meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Gary. Now, anyone have any comments or questions about the agenda item? Go ahead, Councillor Caddy.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you, Karen and Gary, for this presentation. And I would like to comment on Beaver Lake Road. I know that since it's been paved, it's really improved access and usage for walkers and bikers, but it's also increased the speed of motor vehicles. So I guess that'll be one of the issues that will need to be addressed. Thank you for taking it on.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments there. Councillor Caddy, any other comments? See, now I just have a couple. I drive every one of the roads you're talking about several times a month. And I have never in the last 2 or 3 years drove any of those roads where I didn't meet several people walking, a motorcycle or a bicycle or a four-wheeler. So I think we definitely have some safety issues on most of those roads. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Okay, we can move on now to Michael Olenek from the Kinmount Pickleball. Michael, are you there? Michael's not in the physical gallery.
I am indeed. I didn't realize I needed to unmute myself. Good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead with your delegation.
Thank you very much. First of all, Council, thank you very much for your time and your opportunity to speak this morning. I would like to talk about our grant application for Kinmount Pickleball. Next slide, please. My wife would be here, but she's got a medical appointment this morning. So, all right, let me give you a little bit of background about pickleball. So we introduced it last year at the Kinmount Fairgrounds. We ran the program 3 days per week through July and August. Over the course of those 2 months, we had almost 400 player visits over the summer. So that's accumulating or counting all of the time, all of the people that showed up through the summer. Users paid a small fee to play. The grant that the municipality gave us last year was instrumental in starting the program and also the success of the program. And we had about 25 new players who are absolutely new to the program introduced to the sport. Next slide, please. So how was the money used? Well, we used it for insurance. That was a big one. We needed a separate insurance policy. Nets, balls, tape. We needed to tape out the lines on the floors, photocopies. Every day that somebody arrived, they had to sign a waiver, markers and paddles. And all excess money was provided to the Kinmount Agricultural Society as a user fee to cover expenses such as electricity, a septic pump out, and general maintenance. Next slide. And you'll see we actually made page 3 of the Kinmount Gazette. So there's some photos there, and you'll notice in the 3rd paragraph that in the contribution from the municipality was certainly highlighted there or pointed out. Next slide. So this was our first day. We were pretty excited about this. So we had Mayor Lambshead and Councillor Franzen came to join us for the first day. And we had, I think, about 19 players on the very first day. So we had a good turnout. And that's held inside the arena. You'll see in the slide there. It's tough to see there, but we actually have 4 courts that are taped out in behind where the players are standing. Next slide. So how well was it adopted by the community and what were some of the benefits? Well, we kind of kept track of where people were coming from, and we had people coming from a variety of lakes, including Davis, Crego, Glamour, Head Lake, 4 Mile Lake, Shadow Lake, White Lake, Salerno, and Crystal Lake. And we also had many residents from a number of smaller towns as well in the area. What was really exciting to see are the new friendships that were established, the great camaraderie and laughs. And a lot of these people, had not met before, but it was very engaging. And many players they expressed excitement being able to have found a new form of exercise. And as a certified coach, as I mentioned earlier, I trained over 25 new players to the sport, and many of them within a couple of days went out and bought their own paddles, came back and said, hey, I bought new running shoes, I bought shorts, and some of them reported that they were playing in Bobcaygeon and Minden through the winter, that they were so hooked and addicted to the sport. And many of the players, once you came into town to play pickleball, would support the local businesses once they finished playing. Next slide, please. So, one of your, when we started this last year, we really had no idea what was going to happen and how successful it was going to be. And one of the nightmares you have is either nobody shows up or too many people show up. And this is actually a picture of probably it was our busiest day. So you can imagine there are 16 people already on the courts to the right, and we had more people waiting to play than were playing. So, as an organizer, this is a bit of a concern, but in chatting with people, they are actually very content to get a bit of a rest and also just to mingle and chat with other new people. So, so that gives you an idea of how successful it was. Next slide, please. And I wanted to share with you, I sort of plotted the attendance every day, and you'll see the very high peak there was the day that I took the picture, but the trend line it's a little faint, but you can see the trend line certainly showed us, growing as we went through the summer. Next slide. So we were fortunate to have Mayor Lambshead come and present some. So we had a potluck wrap-up lunch at the end, and we had some prizes. So these were awards that were presented to the most improved ladies. So all 3 of these ladies had never played before, and the lady on the left, Laurel, she's actually down in Florida right now playing pickleball through the winter. And then Linda, the lady in the middle, she was actually coming from Head Lake. So their drive was about 25 minutes and they came religiously twice a week. What I'm really excited about is the lady on the right, Kathy Stevens, is a big time water skier and she skis every day, but she did not miss one day of pickleball through the summer. She said, I can water ski most other times of the day. I can only play pickleball when it's here. And she became totally addicted to playing the sport. So she never missed a day of pickleball through the summer. Next slide. And then Mayor Lambs had presented to the most improved males, and all three of these gentlemen had never played as well. And the one on the left is Todd Munns. The gentleman in the back is Jim Scott. So Jim showed up and he was in jeans and hiking shoes when he first came on the very first day. He didn't come the very first day, but his first day. So I gave him some lessons and some instruction, and he came back the next week. Hey, I went out, I bought a paddle, I've got new shorts, new running shoes, and I'm all set to play. And he didn't miss many days after that. And then Frank is our last player there, and he had a blast playing the game as well. Next slide. So what are we planning for 2025? We'd like to run the program 5 mornings a week. We're going to divide the daily play by skill level, and this will allow, maybe some advanced players playing one day and then beginners playing another day to allow for better player development. Program is still available to everyone. What are we going to do this year? We'll get the message out earlier, and we'll work with the Agricultural Society to improve the lighting and some maintenance in the arena. Next slide. Thank you. To wrap up, what are some of the benefits of the program? Well, first of all, great form of exercise for residents. Pickleball drew people into Kinmount, supporting the town in ways of dining, groceries, supply, and tourism. It fostered a healthy, safe, and active community. It addressed a community gap by supporting the health and well-being of the community and its citizens, and provided a positive community impact, engagement, and civil pride. And of the last picture that I showed you there of Todd Munns and Jim Scott, what's kind of neat about those two gentlemen is through their discussion with some of the people through pickleball, they actually are now on the board of the Kinmount Food Bank. So again, I think one of the positives that came out of their relationship with pickleball through the summer. So we were excited to hear that this winter. Next slide, please. That was it. I was trying to get through it quickly, and if you've got any questions, I'm prepared to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your delegation, Michael. Does anyone on council have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks, Michael. Obviously, you're enthusiastic about it. Kudos for getting this going. That's always the hard part is, as you say, either nobody shows up or too many. My question for you, Kinmount is one of those unique municipalities or municipal hamlets that's in 3 municipalities. And I see that you've gone out and reached out to the Crystal Lake Community Association funding, which is great. It supported you last year. Just wondering if you've also approached the city of Kawartha Lakes and up in Halliburton Highlands East as well.
I have not, but I would certainly be prepared to do that, since we are drawing people from their community, certainly.
Great. I think, we think that's fair.
Yeah, no, I agree. I will do that.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Excellent. Thank you for your comment, Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Councilor Braber, go ahead.
Thank you through you, Mayor. And build on Deputy Mayor's comments. Do you have a breakdown of all the players that you've had come out? Do you have a breakdown of where they are from? I know you mentioned a couple of them.
Yeah, I do. I mean, all those lakes that I listed, I have some of the names of the towns that people were from. In fact, I believe at the end of last year, we actually had a map. So I had a big map printed, and I asked people to indicate on the map where they were coming from. And Mayor Lambs said, I think I gave that to you at the end of last year so that you could share it with council. So you could sort of, you could take a look and see where everybody was coming from.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Councilor Franzen.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I've heard from lots of people how well received it is in the Galway and Kinmount area. Now, actually, your last picture had my brother Frank on it, and he doesn't miss a session. and he's very enthusiastic about pickleball. He's never played in his life. One question I'd like to ask is whether there's pickleball played in 3 locations now within our municipality. Possibly they could have a tournament between the 3 areas, if that would be something under consideration, Michael?
Absolutely, it would be. We could certainly, we would talk to the fair. I guess it doesn't have to be on a weekend, but yeah, we could certainly arrange that. And I think a tournament is a great way of, elevating the awareness, if you will. And yeah, I could certainly run that. I'm on the board for the pickleball club here in the town where I live. And I ran the last tournament, so I could easily host a tournament. And I think that would be great for raising awareness. And what's interesting to your point is I had somebody reach out to me from the Kawartha Lakes Pickleball Association last year. If you go on their website, they'll show you the places they play. And he said, listen, I'd like to share your facility with my group of 400 players. I said, please don't do that right now. I don't think I can handle 400 players, but certainly, as the program grows, then we can, we can expand our reach, and certainly holding a tournament would be a great idea. Thank you for that idea.
Thank you very much, Councillor Franzen. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I just have a comment. I think in the future, when you're using your ability to teach people, you should give them a warning at how much stiff and sore you're going to be the next day. One of the members of council might have played a little more aggressively than he should have. It was a little stressful the next couple of days. Well, thank you very much.
Mayor Lamb said thank you for coming out. I know you participated the first day, and we'd love to see any of you come out and play this summer.
I now have pickleball paddles. I will be seeing you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we can move on to, is anyone in the physical gallery that would like to do a presentation? Please raise your hand. Seeing none?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. If you would like to come to the podium and introduce yourself, and then we'll go back to Christine Beckman's
My
online.
name is Paul Slade. I'm with the Oakshore Community Center. First time doing this, so I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm here to explain a little bit of what we do down in our community center. We provide services to all the local residents, as well as other residents from surrounding area are also members there. We provide darts, cards, actually fitness programs now on Wednesday evenings. The community center itself is used by locals for birthday parties, retirement parties, and also celebrations of life. We just recently lost one of our beloved community members, Rita, and I actually was asked by her 4 years ago to take her position as vice president because her health was declining. We provided services over the years for people in the community that have been devastated DI by fires. So we open up the doors for them to come in. We had one family that lost their whole house and kids, and within 4 hours, we had 15 bags of clothes and toys for the kids to help them out and get started back. I mean, fortunately, one night we were open doing a dinner that one of the ladies was putting on, and there was a gentleman that went through the ice in his SUV. So he wound up at our door that night, and we got emergency services to help them. We're here to apply for a grant to help us out with some of our maintenance issues that are starting to build up because our bank accounts were devastated through the COVID time. We literally were drained completely. We've now built them back up, with the support of all the communities and people being involved in our events. We do pub and grubs in the summer for the cottagers coming up, as well as the locals. We do breakfast every other Saturday down in our community to raise money to keep the community center open. Last year, well, I should say I implemented a scrap metal program to raise money so we could get some of our maintenance. So we've done new chairs, carpeting last spring with all donated help. Everything is all volunteer. We redid the whole back patio and built a new patio out the front. But we're just looking now for a little help to get us and our maintenance issues up to speed so that we can be open and supply these services to the locals that come to our community center.
Thank you very much. Does anyone on council have any comments or questions for Paul? Go ahead, Councillor Franzen.
Yeah, just one comment. I'm very well aware of that community center. I attend the breakfasts fairly regularly, and it's a well-run facility, and I'm impressed with your small community center. Great people.
Yeah, they are great people. I mean, we're kind of unknown down in there. Unless you've ever turned down Kennedy or Edwina, you wouldn't know about the place. But the people in our community are great, and we all support and help each other. I mean, my wife and I ourselves, since we retired, have brought some of our professional experience. My wife now does all the marketing and branding and getting information out from our community for everybody to come and enjoy. You just don't have to live in Oak Shores. But our biggest thing right now, we're trying to raise money ourselves to eventually get a generator on the building so that, if we have any situations, especially in the winter, a lot of our residents don't have generators. Hydro has done a great job in upgrading everything, but there's still always a possibility of power outages for long periods of time. So we've had the abilities over the years with fires that have occurred down in that area. We've opened up for first responders and everybody to come and get warm, serve them food and coffee or whatever else they need, or just a warm place to come. The only other thing, like we don't have a lot because we do this all voluntarily. We would like to be able eventually one day supply Wi-Fi. We don't have that there, but we do our best with what we have, and basically we're self-run, because most of the people in the community do come and help support us with all the events and that we hold. But we're just finding that it's getting tough lately, keeping up with some of the maintenance. And basically that's what we're looking for. Not a lot, but all the work will be done by members voluntarily. I do know some contractors and suppliers that do help us out if when we ask to the best they can. But basically, we're just there to support each other and create a safe and fun place to come to.
Thank you very much for your comments. Go ahead, Councillor Braber.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. It's just a comment. My wife and I had the pleasure of coming for a couple of breakfasts, and I thank Councillor Franzen for putting us on it. It's a bit of a diamond in the rough, because I didn't even know it was there and what it offered and that sort of thing. So that's it was quite a pleasant surprise when we went.
Yeah, the women do a great job of and a great breakfast for a great price.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody says, how can you do this? But we're not greedy. We're not there to gouge, and we just like having the locals come in and enjoy the place. But we would like to help improve it a bit more. It's like you said, a diamond in the rough, and it's a bit rough, and we need to clean it up and make it more presentable for people that want to use it. I mean, we don't charge a rental fee for members or even locals. It's more of a donation. If you use the facilities, the women will come in and supply the service in the kitchen and so on and so forth. So it's just all a donation-based community center.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Just an end to that. And I see just from your profit and loss that your bar sales do well, but there's not many beer drinkers.
No. No, that's
36,000 bar
I'm not
sales
actually a drinker myself, but the guys on Sunday darts and our ladies on Monday darts sure like that. But rest assured, nobody drives home drunk, and everybody gets home safely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Go ahead, Councillor Cadigan.
A question and a suggestion, I think. I'm curious, who owns the building?
Good question. I think it's owned all in part by residents of Oak Shores. And then us who are elected in or appointed in to run the place. You know, I mean, I don't really know. I've been down in that area for 23 years and probably been a member there for the last 20. Nobody is that really owns it other than the community. Like we had an issue come up last year where we have a community gardens, and in behind it, there's some old buildings because I think they used to pump water from there all around the neighborhood. And they were just left. One of the buildings was becoming quite decrepit, and we were asked to tear it down. Now, it came late last fall, so unfortunately, I do have a local contractor that is going to do it for a fee, but he said it wouldn't be a full out fee because he's also lives in the community. So this spring, that building will be leveled and cleaned up and taken care of. So that's an added cost. We don't really know what it is right now, but he assured me it wouldn't be too expensive. He's part of the community and wants to help out as well. So when we were looking into it, you know, we went through all the files to see like who has the authority to do what. But I guess being granted the president of the club, Janice Beam, she has the authority to implement anything. But in the end, it just belongs to the community, is my understanding.
Suggestion, if I may, Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you considered advertising on our Trent Lakes website, your events? If you want to reach a wider
I
audience.
could mention that to my wife. I'm not in social media. I don't have any, so I don't know how it works really. I've just never got into it, but I know that it's advertised so through the Oak Shore Community Center website as well as I think a local one is the Big Ball Little Ball Facebook and Bob Cajun. So I mean, we do have members from Bob Cajun, as I said before, in other areas. So mostly people, I guess, who's lived in the area. Like, I mean, I go back over 47 years. My parents were on Nogies Creek. My grandfather and great-grandfather, my great-grandfather actually cut the first road into Clear Lake back in 1932. Sandy Point Road, if you're familiar with that, was the first road cut in there. So, I mean, it's just, I love this area. I've always wanted, and finally we live up here, moved up almost 8 years ago full time. But yeah, we advertise, we do what we can. And so if that's another option, then I'll tell my wife about it and she can look into advertising our events there as well.
Thank you. I feel like I'm missing some good breakfast.
And the pub and grubs are really good. All the stuff that we do. We also do potluck dinners for people at least 2 or 3 times a year. There's one woman that likes to cook Chinese food, so she puts on a whole dinner. It's $10, but you get fed really well.
I don't need to be fed that well anymore.
Well, it's good. I mean, when we have that one especially, it's sold out. We do golf tournaments. We do all sorts of stuff to keep us busy and active down in Oak Shores.
I think that's an important thing. Maybe you should be advertising on our website. I think you get a lot more people involved in helping you.
And
I think that would be.
Know about the place because, like I said, we're kind of off the beaten path.
Yeah, I've been going there since it was pretty near new, so it's not new to me, but thank you. That's awesome. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much for your delegation. I appreciate it. Okay, I think we're going on the line to Christine Brickman. Christine, are you there for the Kinmont Agricultural Society?
I am here.
Okay, go ahead with your delegation, Christine, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll try and get through it quickly because we have presented before and it's basically a similar theme. It's similar to last year's as well. But the Kinmont Agricultural Society, it is a non-profit corporation. with the main objective to promote agriculture and other community-oriented events. Jesse, if you could move to the second slide. Perfect, thank you. The board of directors are responsible for planning and hosting the main event of the year, and everyone that is on the board of directors and the executive, they are volunteers. And it may not be that apparent on the day of the Kinmount Fair about how much time is worked by every single volunteer throughout the entire year. And so there are board meetings and other committee meetings that happen throughout the year in order to make that, that big fabulous weekend happen. So you get there and you went, wow, how did this all happen? Well, it happens because of a lot of very skilled people and dedicated people behind the scenes pulling it together. The Kinmount Fair has been around a long time. It was founded in 1872. And typically the attendance is around 20 to 25,000 at the peak. The attendance is still struggling since COVID happened, where we had the higher numbers, similar numbers this year versus 2023. But we assume that it'll just start ramping back up as we continue to get better entertainment and more vendors and more activities happening. Similar theme to all of the other presenters, but the contributions to the community and the area is the health and well-being, the quality of life, focusing on arts and culture and heritage, recreation, leisure, and basically to give a sense of pride to the community and also to bring in economy into the little town of Kinmount. The participation for the youths and for others to participate, really not much, but people do like to participate when there's prizes of cash, ribbons, and even if it's just a little medal, it gets the kids excited when they win on the talent contests or at the kids races, or even with the agriculture. Getting those ribbons and prizes is a very big excitement and motivator for people. And of course, there's the annual ambassador program that gets someone from the community involved, and they attend the winter fair as well on our behalf. Next slide, please. This is just a very tiny slice of some of the images from the Kinmount Fair. The Ferris wheel, again, we had it this year, and it's a big draw. As you know, when you come around that corner and you see the Ferris wheel there in Kinmount, it's a big wow factor. The Derby, I had the I guess the fortune because I was out selling 50/50 raffle tickets, and I was right down there in the very, very front of the demolition derby. I've never sat that close before, and I don't know if I'll do it again, but wow, what a thrill, hearing, smelling, feeling everything that's going on. And it really is a very big attraction to have that demolition derby happening. With the wood carvings, also a big attraction. That little guy there, that's my grandnephew, and you could see how happy he was for winning a medal in the talent contest. The slides down there, those are the large crowds that we get at the talent competitions. Next one there is from because we are unable to have a parade as we typically have, we did a switch up for 2023 that worked very well, and that was to have a so-called parade inside of the arena, and you could see the marching bands and the veterans. So it was a different approach. It has its pros and cons, but it seemed to work very well for the first year having it inside of the arena. The bottom slide there is the winners of the talent competition. Next slide, please. Again, another big event is having the horse-drawn, The next slide over is the winner of the 50/50 raffle. Very successful. We had it for our first time this year, and the winner had actually never been to the Kinmount Fair before, and she just happened to be in the fairgrounds when the announcement came out, and she was able to come over and get her picture taken as the winner of the 50/50. Inside the Heritage Building, there's a lot of pieces that are set up, and that there is a miniature rail trail. Next slide, please. Just showing there a lot of the agricultural that gets people involved in, the largest, the greenest of around your zucchinis, carrots, cauliflower. The campground, there's approximately 400 campsites there. They were filled up. People come decade after decade, generation after generation to come and make use of the fairgrounds. I've never stayed there, but every time I go, boy, it looks like so much fun to see all the multiple families wanting to get their favorite site that they've had forever. Just some more demolition pictures. Next slide, please. Again, it's not just about the Kinmount Fair. The Kinmount Fair grounds is used by a lot of other activities throughout the year. So the off-road jeepers, the Cat Fee, there's the Terry Fox Run, Canada Day celebrations. The Pioneer Heritage Center is there all year round, although it's not used. They also have farmers markets and other vendor events. And as previously with Michael presenting about pickleball, that had their first successful year, and it will be on and hosted again for 2025. And in past years, we've had the Highland Games skating when we had actually cold winters and could have ice. And we do have other ideas that are being thought of, and that's monster trucks, movie nights, and perhaps having food festivals set up, and even at some point, because there's likely lots of area, there could be a playground set up. Next slide, please. What's the funding request? The funding request is $19,000, and that would be broken down between continuing to do landscaping and continuing to make tracks and trail upgrades. Also doing more painting, sports equipment, improving the lighting. Even Michael brought that up, that we need to have improved lighting. It was never anticipated to be used as much as it is, especially with the pickleball. So lighting is a big expense. Public washrooms, again, definitely needing upgrades to modern, and also improved signage throughout the fairgrounds. And the need to, you've all, I think, had your luncheons there and at the Heritage Center. We really need a permanent roof there, especially because of the weather. And last year, the monies that we received, I think it was $6,000, that was put towards replacing the main stage, and which is obviously much safer, much better than what we had before. Next, please. This is actually a little bit of a repeat, but you can see a little bit more description about what we would be using the funds for. Next slide, please. There's a picture down there of the inside the Heritage Building that was set up on display. I can't remember the numbers right now, but I was very surprised and impressed at the volume of people that go through that Heritage and the Pioneer Building during the Kinmount Fair. It's very, very well attended. Next slide, please. If the grant was not approved, because we have such an extensive list of projects, the need to cancel the fair during the 2 seasons of COVID, the basically there was some momentum that was lost, not just only with the volunteers and the board, but mainly just from attendance. So we are, wanting to have bigger ideas, bigger promotion, better ways of getting the word out to get people to enjoy the Kinmount Fair. And the other thing, I think this came up last year, but the Ontario Trillium, there's some restrictions in there. And one of them is being that all the board members must be of arm's length. In other words, they cannot be related. And being a small town of Kinmount, to meet that restriction has been a bit of a challenge. The committee are energized volunteers. They're generating a lot of great new ideas, want to improve the fairgrounds, very, very active, and have made big improvements to the fairgrounds and to the campground over the last few years. And we want to continue to have Kinmount basically as a community, as a hub. It's, anybody that's been there, they know that the Kinmount Fairgrounds is what brings people together. They also have a very large social media following and able to easily get the word out to either through newspaper publications, through the social media, the website, and other recreational and tourism publications. And with that, I thank you for listening, and if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Christine Brickman. Does anyone on council have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Christine. Great presentation. 2 questions. The first one is the same one that I asked Michael, and that is, again, because Kinmount is located in 3 municipalities, are you also approaching CKL and Highlands East for funding?
I'm going to say no to that. I guess we just never thought about it because the fairgrounds is rightfully in Trent Lakes. I just didn't know. I'm sure we've never thought about it, whether it would be appropriate to approach CKL if we're not in CKL.
Okay, yep, thank you. And I don't know what their policy looks like there or in Highlands East, but probably worth looking at. The second one is, and it's building on Councillor Cadigan's question earlier, who owns the fairgrounds?
The fairgrounds is owned by the Kinmount Agricultural Society. I'm not sure what the name of the corporation is, but it's fairly close to that. But the fairgrounds and the building are owned by the non-profit corporation. Not for profit, I should say, not for profit.
Yep, great. Thanks for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments or questions? I'm seeing no hands up. I just have a quick comment. Every time you go to that fairground, you see something new has been done. So that, it's moving ahead. Fantastic. Thank you very much for all of that.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Thank you very much, Christine.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone now in the physical gallery that would like to speak to one of their grant applications? Please come to the podium and state your name for the record, please.
That's Goldfard, and I represent the Trent Lakes Selwyn Seniors Club, which was previously known as the Harvey Smith Seniors Club. We have approximately 41 members. It goes up and down, unfortunately, because people die, because we are a seniors club. What we try and do is have a monthly potluck lunch meeting where we keep our members informed of what's happening within the community, within what's happening in town council. As you know, each of you on the town council have at one point or another been invited to attend, and we have 2 members of council who are current members. We've asked for a grant to help us with ongoing projects. We don't have a specific one. I keep urging our members to come up with ideas, what they would like to do, what they want to do. Unfortunately, seniors, as previously mentioned, when we're talking about the hamper funds, are reticent to come forward and make suggestions or put their names forward. I'm not sure you have any other questions that you'd like to ask. There must be.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Lance. Anyone have any other questions or comments? Councillor Franzen, go ahead.
I'll build on Carol Armstrong, Deputy Mayor's comments to the other groups. Are you approaching Selwyn Council with the same presentation?
We approached them 2 years ago, I think it was, and they turned us down flat because we're not physically located within the confines of Selwyn Township. Albeit our members are from both sides of the bridge as such, rather than the railway tracks.
Yeah.
I can't say any percentage of how many people are actually from Selwyn as opposed to Trent Lakes, because I don't know that number. I've also sent out an invitation to all of the town council people from Selwyn to come in and join one of our meetings. I've yet to receive a response from anyone, albeit I've just done that about 8 days ago, I think. But I'm going to keep after them. And once I get them there, then I'm going to approach them for money too.
Well, I think I might be able to help you get some of them there. I will have that discussion with their mayor.
Well, apparently their mayor has a county meeting on the same day of the week as our monthly meetings.
As do we. Okay, Councillor Braber, you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, thank you through your mayor. It's just a comment. I think it's a really important group to support.
Thank you.
Not because Councillor Franzen and I are members, but it's just being part of it and getting to know all the members that are part of it. It is a family, and then speaking with all the membership, all the seniors, it's something they look forward to.
Cool, most definitely.
Yeah, and it's and I think any monies that you're able to raise or have granted, I mean, you certainly keep a tight book and you make sure it goes to a good program or initiative. So I think it's important that we as a municipality support that.
No, thank you. We also try and get, maybe I mentioned it before, a different speaker every month from somewhere within the community, whether it's the fire department or somebody from community care. We had the library CEO there one day. And we've also, as you know, had each member of council come and make a presentation. And we're working all the time on enlarging that so that we got, I should say it, everybody involved from within the community and outside of the community to keep everybody informed, to keep them bright and alert. And some of our people need that help. Trust me, I do. We also run a bid euchre program every Monday morning at the BCC, and we also have a progressive euchre at the Cavendish Community Center every Thursday afternoon. And again, it's getting older people involved, getting them out, getting them interacting with other people, and hopefully we're doing some good.
Okay, thank you very much, Lance. Any
Thank
other
you.
comments or questions? I'm seeing none. I just have a comment. I was fortunate enough to attend the last one because our county council meeting was changed to a different date. And I think there's like 35 people there, and I think there was 25 conversations going on. It was a very loud group. So I think that meant a few of us, myself included, might have been talking to ourselves. But
Well, I try from time to time to keep them reined in and focused in one direction, but with older people, that's tough to do. And please don't misunderstand me. I'm not making any reference to the council.
well, you chaired a good meeting, and then it got very loud.
Well,
It was
thank
fun.
you.
I think everyone had fun and enjoyed themselves. Thank you for getting people out.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else virtually would like to speak? Is there anyone else in the gallery that would like to? Please come to the podium and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mary Cocker Nelson, and I represent the Alpine Village Property Owners Association. We've never applied for a grant before, so this is first time for that. We're kind of an older association. We've owned the conveyed lands that we paid the taxes on across the front. And for nearly 50 years, we've been able to manage maintenance costs and everything through what we raise for the Alpine dues for the people who live within Alpine. We're coming up against some safety issues and maintenance issues with our parkland. And my application might have been a little bit proactive in asking for the funds. Everything is done by volunteers, and it's a small association. To do everything that we kind of need to do would probably be a 5 to 7 year plan. Our first mission that we're trying to accomplish, and I'm pretty sure that we will be able to accomplish it within our own means, is our dog park. We've been asked by our members for a off-leash dog park, so it has to be contained. And so I think we're going to be able to achieve the fencing for that this year, and all of our volunteers and equipment and maintenance and everything we need all comes free of charge. Down at our park and our boat launch, we've got some issues going on there with safety. We've got folks locked, we don't have any control of the position of where the launch is, as opposed to where people are coming into park and offloading their children to go down to our beach. And it's getting a bit dangerous at times, especially on long weekends. And we need to clearly put in some maintenance things to clearly define where people should be parking their cars and where people are, parking their boat trailers and whatnot. So that was the purpose mainly of the application. I don't know where it's going to fall or land with you folks. We trust that you have some of our safety, in your thoughts. The roads are beautiful, the brand new roads that we've got. People are going a little bit quicker. We do realize that it's a bit of a concern, but that's down the road. And I've gotten a lot of ideas today from other folks in their presentations. So I think I'm going to, seek out some of those avenues also for perhaps some advice and, see what kind of help we could get with that. So really, I'm here just to answer any questions that you might have had.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Anyone have any comments or questions? Oh, Councillor Brayburg.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks very much for your application. You talked about the dog park and whatnot and your beaches. Is that all open to like the whole municipality?
No, it's not. No, it is a homeowners association, and the association owns all that parkland and the beaches and the island and the boat launch. And we have locks on gates there because we've had some short-term rental problems. So we've unfortunately been going in the direction of more exclusion rather than inclusion. It'd be lovely if we could open it up, but it just, when you're volunteers that are cleaning up the beach and people are bringing their boats out, and if they're from somewhere else, they see a waste bin and they just dump everything in there. And it just got to be too intense for the volunteers, especially when we got to get up and go to work on Monday. And, it's a working class neighborhood.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much, Mary, for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your application. Okay, is there anyone else in the gallery that has any comments or questions or is willing to do a delegation, presentations? I'm seeing none. Is there anyone online that would like to do a delegation? I don't think we have any, but maybe getting us through our delegation section of our agenda. Thank you everyone for attending that. Okay, we can now move on to item 5. I think I'm lost. Yeah, okay, we're at 5.1, which Donna Taggart, our CEO treasurer, would like to speak to some of these applications. Please go ahead now.
Thank you, and through you. So the community grant requests for 2025 total just over 194,000, and all requests were included on the agenda today. So under the new community grant policy, the total funding available for 2025 is 65,668.55, which is 0.60% of the previous year's taxation levy. So that means the requests are about 128,000 more than what is available under the program. So the next steps include the completion of the approved grant matrix by council, each council member, where applications will be scored and ranked, with recommended grant amounts being determined by each council member. So as a reminder, it would be appreciated if council could return the completed matrix documents to staff by January 30th, as this will allow time for staff to calculate average scoring amounts. So the average of these council recommended amounts will be brought to you at the February 18th meeting for approval. So there is an opportunity at this time for council to have a general discussion about the applications received, which can include any questions for staff that you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Donna Taggart, our CEO treasurer. Does anyone on council have any comments or questions for staff or something that needs clarified about any of these applications? I think we've had a really general conversation. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Lamson. I did have a few comments. One has gone away, and that was the requirement for financials to be submitted with applications, but we now have them all. So that comment goes away because all those applications are complete. We do have one application, which is from an organization outside Trent Lakes that doesn't serve Trent Lakes residents. So I think we need to be mindful that it simply doesn't adhere to policy. And I don't know what our approach to that should be. Personally, I don't think it should even be on our evaluation matrix. And we should filter some of those out before we get to the rating. That was really the only comment. Everything else is certainly complete, meets the policy requirements. And then it's just a question of whether the individual expenditures are adhere to the overall objectives of policy and the grants.
Okay, thank you very much. And we historically have had other organizations ask for money that do not operate in exclusively Trent Lakes. So it's a decision of council as to what we support. Thank you very much for your comments. Any other? Go ahead, Councilor Braber.
Thank you through your merit to our staff, Donna. If there's any out of the 64,000 plus, if there's any surplus, what happens with that? Or do we exhaust the what's available?
Right. So thank you, and through you. So based on the average amounts, we would look to only put in the budget what council approved. We do have a $3,000 amount in there as a miscellaneous grant amount as well that council could use throughout the year, but we would only budget the amount that's approved. So if it's less than that, that would be what we would consider in the budget for approval.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Councilor Cadigan, go ahead.
I have a question about one of the applicants that I've never heard of, Base Pallets, and they're looking for $55,000. There's no presentation, just wondering if you could enlighten me on who they are.
So thank you, and through you. I don't know a great deal about them as well. I believe they're out of Quebec. I do believe that there was an attempt to contact them through a phone number that did not work. But yes, we felt it was important to give everything that came into council for consideration. But yes, I don't know a great deal other than what is in that application that was submitted.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for your answer. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Now, without naming names, that was the application I was talking about.
Yeah.
Commercial organization outside of Trent Lakes and doesn't service Trent Lakes.
Thank you for bringing that once again to our attention. Deputy
Sorry for
Mayor.
not picking up on that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You made it crystal clear.
Well, thank you very much. This is why we have these conversations. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Okay, I just have a comment. I do understand completely the conversation that we just had. That's a large ask at $55,000. It would exhaust our grant applications entirely if we were to support something completely outside of our municipality. Okay. I think we are, any more questions, comments? Seeing none. I just want to thank every applicant and everyone that put in their applications and the vast amount of information that we requested. Thank you very much, and thank you for your delegations. And now I would entertain a motion to receive these delegations and grant applications. I see.
Motion to receive.
And do I have a seconder? Yes.
Second, with just a comment, I think we all
Deputy Mayor,
recognize and acknowledge, sorry for my voice. It's as painful for me as it is for you to listen to. I think we all recognize and acknowledge the contributions that volunteers make to our community. And you're right, I think Jenny, you said it, some municipalities, the municipality pays for those services. We're small, we don't have a lot of money, and we do rely on the time and efforts and initiatives of our volunteers to fill those gaps. So we appreciate all of you. We don't have enough money to support all of your requests in full, but we will do our best to portion it to support the priority services that you provide. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. I have a mover and a seconder. Any other conversation? I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Okay, now we can move on to item 6 of our agenda, which is staff reports. Item 6.1 is Donna Taggart, our CAO treasurer. Would you like to speak to this item, please?
Yes, thank you, and through you. So before you is an updated 2025 draft budget report. So the municipality has now received the assessment roll for 2025. The current value assessment is 2.8 billion. The province, just as a reminder, has delayed reassessments province-wide, and values are still frozen at January 1, 2016. So the assessment growth for 2024 was 1.15%, 34.4 million. And that was the estimated amount at the November 18th budget meeting. So growth is the difference between the January 1, 2024 value and the December 31st, 2024 value for new builds and renovations. So changes approved by council at the November 18th meeting have been made, along with other changes identified by staff. All of these changes have been highlighted in the individual departmental budgets and that have been provided to you on the agenda today.
Okay.
In addition to the changes, those changes, there are some additional ones if council would like me to go through those.
I think that's important, please, if you don't mind, Donna, that would be.
So in the capital budget, there was the addition of $5,000 for furniture, and that budget is required with the plan to move some offices in this building when the recreation and facilities relocate to the 49 building. In general government, there was an increase in revenue budgeted for shoreline land sales and tax penalties and interest totaling $55,000, and an increase in the expense for IT services of $20,000. So in other protection services, there was a change in the allocation of wages between building and planning, as initially a portion of wages for all building staff were being allocated to planning, and it should have only been for 2 staff. So the overall wages were not changed, just the allocation. In the revenue portion of other protection services, there was $29,000 added for anticipated revenue for short-term rental accommodation registration. And the transfer from reserve revenue was lowered by $100,000 with the reduction in OPP costs for 2025. And there was an initial plan to take money, from the OPP reserve to cover some of this increase. So under bylaw enforcement, wages and benefits were increased for the addition of a full-time bylaw position. And there was an expense budget added for short-term rental accommodation registration costs in keeping with the amount that was budgeted in the revenue portion of the budget. There was a new bylaw vehicle and some operating costs added in the amount of $27,400, which is actually a fire pickup that had been replaced and was scheduled to be sold. This vehicle was had low kilometers on it and is being transferred between departments for use by bylaw enforcement. And actually, Steve suggested that, which was helpful. So the bylaw budget also includes the purchase of 2 cloud permit applications for licensing and bylaw enforcement. Other changes in the other protection budget include a slight decrease in the KRCA levy after the budget presentation to council at the last meeting. And the biggest change in this budget is a one-time reduction of $280,649 in the OPP levy. You will see that there is a budgeted transfer to reserve of $100,000 to offset some of this reduction in anticipation for the levy to substantially increase for 2025, as the reduction is only promised for 2025, or sorry, in 2026. The reduction is only promised for 2025. So the only change in the fire budget is an increase in the mileage and gas budgets of about $3,000. And in public works, in the revenue section of that budget, there's an increase in the scrap metal revenue with a change in the contract to pick up scrap metal. There was also some budget changes for some vehicles, which I know Evan can speak to if council has any particular questions about that. There was a budget added for the new 49 depot and a reduction in the current 49 depot budget. And in recreation and facilities, there was an increase in the transfer from reserve revenue of $2,500 to offset work approved for the rink boards that was not completed at the end of 2024. And there was also additional revenue added for $5,000 for the contribution of Selwyn to the flowers and buckhorn. And this budget also included an increase of $3,000 for the miscellaneous grants, an increase of $1,500 for insurance, and a slight increase in the maintenance budget for the Sandy Lake Cemetery of $1,000. And there was an increase of $1,200 to better reflect street lighting costs and slight increases to hydro and volunteer insurance based on 2024 actuals. So with the changes, the tax levy between 2024 and 2025 would be $442,618.11, or 4.04%, which equates to a tax rate increase of 2.91% when factoring in growth. This would result in an increase of just over $44 for a single family detached property, $64.77 for a single family detached on the water, and just over $68 for a seasonal dwelling on the water. So at the November 18th budget meeting, council directed that staff bring back a budget that had a tax levy increase under 5.99%. We have accomplished that, as the levy is currently sitting at 4.04%. At this meeting, council did not support 2 requests from the Director of Recreation and Facilities for additional parking in Buckhorn and for a new to fleet tractor loader backhoe. Staff have prepared an impact of additional staff requests document for you to consider today. If Bianca doesn't mind putting that up, please. Should council wish to reconsider this spending, the tax levy increase would be 5.74% if both of these budget items were approved, which is still under the 5.99 directed by council. So staff today are looking for a decision on these 2 additional budget items, as well as any additional budget changes that council would like to see, with a plan to bring the document back for approval at the February 18th regular meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Donna. Does anyone have any comments or questions? So Donna. Seeing everyone's deep in thought and concentrating on their numbers. I just have a comment about the tractor loader backhoe. I think we've just deferred a decision and not made this decision for several years now. And as I can attest to, every year your shoulders and your arms get wore out a little more. So I think it's important to support that idea. it's about repetitive injury to our employees, I think. So you take 40 wheelbarrows and shovel them all, you're tired at the end of that day. That's just my opinion. That is a decision of council. Go ahead, Councillor Trent.
Yeah, I'd like to give my opinion. I would like to maintain the budget as low as we possibly can, because I think that the ratepayers are hurting now, and they may hurt quite a bit in the future with some of the decisions made south of the border.
Thank you for your comments. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Lieutenant. If we're talking about the backhoe, tractor over backhoe, I guess I'm just not building on what Vincent said. I guess I'm not convinced. I mean, we're renting it for about $9,000 a year, and the cost is $80,000. So, you know, we could easily continue to rent it. I know there's some logistics issues with going to get it, have to use it, so it's not ideal. But I agree with the councillor. I don't think it's necessary, and so I would defer that again.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else have any comments or questions about this item? I am seeing, go ahead, Councillor Cadigan.
Through your mayor, I was under the impression, maybe mistakenly, that the tractor loader was required for the additional parking lot building, but is that, are they not tied together? No, they're not. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Anyone want any comments or questions, Dylan? No? Okay. Thank you. Okay, we need to make a decision on whether we're going to include the additional parking lot in Buckhorn and the tractor loader backhoe in this year's budget. Go ahead, Councillor Franzen.
I'd make the motion that we don't include those two items in this upcoming budget.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that motion? And we can have some conversation. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any further conversation? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Maybe just a comment, and I'm not sure what your thoughts were, but we have made some headway in trying to address the parking situation in Buckhorn, with the parking at church and Old Park, and also the accessory parking up near the BCC. And so, and we've now had, albeit they're very small, no parking signs installed in the hamlet of Buckhorn, and big blue P signs so that people sort of know where there is parking available. That could be larger, but at least, so I'd like to see the impact of that for 1 year before we move ahead with a capital expenditure of $250,000.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any other comments? I understand your motion. I feel that tractor is an important part. I know it's a few $1,000s to rent it, but you also have to include the staff time to go pick it up and take it back. When you only get 2 or 3 hours of work out of it in a day, and you pay $9,000, but that's my opinion.
Thank you. Through your mayor, it's just a comment. I echo the mayor's comments as far as the backhoe. I know I made the same sort of comments when we were dealing with it at a previous council meeting. I agree that we defer it this year, but I think we should really take a hard look at it for either next year or the year after. Because I remember our Parks and Rec director mentioning that the backhoe could be utilized for a lot of other areas in his area of responsibility. So it would be well used, and it is something that, to expand on your comments, Mayor, as far as employee health and safety and that sort of thing. So I think it is important. Something we seriously consider for next year's budget.
Okay, any other comments? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? Oh, sorry, Donna.
Nope, that's fine. But just to clarify, the actual cost of the parking was $150. It was lowered from that report.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so that's fine. Just to let you know, and we will continue to look for grants maybe for that as well, if there's anything out there.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to call for that vote one more time because I didn't get a count there. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay. Thank you very much. Now, do you want to speak on more items on that agenda, Donna?
No, just
No,
through you,
that's it.
unless there's anything else that council wish staff to add to the 2025 budget, we would look to bring this to you February 18th for adoption.
We do have a couple of things, but I think we'll wait till they're very minor and insignificant, but they will be added maybe on the 2026 budget. I think because we already know that the county's going to raise their levy 6% probably. So I think a 4 and change is a lot. So I thank you very much to all of our staff for getting their budgets down to where we are. Okay. We're done. We can move on to item 7 of our agenda, which is the adoption of the confirming bylaw. Item 7.1 is the confirming bylaw. Would anyone be prepared to make a motion? Councillor Cadigan for a mover and Councillor Franzen for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on to item 8 of our agenda, which is adjournment. Would anyone care to make a motion to adjourn? Councillor Braver for a mover. Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We are adjourned. Thank you very much for staff. Thank you very much to council, and thank you very much for all the volunteers and applicants for our grant applications.